Today we're going to be talking with Amy, who has recently done the Transcontinental race, and looking at her bike and setup and what she learned, with a view to hopefully helping people that might want to do the same thing.
Okay, so in terms of packing, I watched a lot of videos and consulted a lot of things online about people who've done this before, and then it really was, again, a kind of hope for the best, and I wouldn't recommend that. I think try it out first. So to be honest, I hadn't slept outside using the gear that I was going to use before doing the TCR, which luckily it was fine, but I'm glad that I practiced that now. So in terms of what I had in the aero pack at the back, I had my sleeping gear in there. So I had an inflatable mat that was essentially the smallest that I could get away with, and I didn't take a sleeping bag because it was going to be so warm over the summer, so I just had my down jacket, and then I had a silk liner as well, and then I had a hooped bivy bag rather than a tent to kind of bring the weight down. And also for me, you know, cost was important. I had a new bike for this event, so I was looking at what will do the job, but what's also affordable, what do I already have that I can use.
And did that setup in terms of sleeping, did that work well, or were you lucky with the weather? Or
I think I was lucky with the weather, and also after my first night, I slept in a bus stop after I saw the people doing that, and I had a few naps during the day using my gear, but actually I decided if I was going to keep going, then, because for me it was going to take a long time, you know, I wasn't going to be done in 12 days, so actually getting a good night's sleep, being clean, sleeping somewhere cool, because it was really hot a lot of the nights in France. It was, you know, 30-35 degrees. I actually chose to sleep in hostels, in guest houses, just book what I could find that was cheap along the way, rather than essentially using my sleep setup. So, but it was very reassuring to have that with me. I spoke to some riders who decided they weren't going to take anything, or they were just going to take a quilt and cowboy camp if they had to, and knowing that if I couldn't find accommodation or if something happened and I had to sleep outside, that was really reassuring that I had the gear to do that. Packing was quite an interesting one. I mean, I had thanks to Tailfin bags, I did have the capacity, but when I packed everything that I wanted to and then weighed the bike with water as well, we were above 25 kilos, which obviously, given the amount of climbing we were going to do in the distance, that seemed a lot. So I then did whittle it down. So there were some things, if I just talk quickly about what I took in terms of clothes, I had 2 pairs of bib shorts. We used the Assos bib shorts that unclip at the back, which were absolutely fantastic. And I think having a second pair of bib shorts, I could always wash a pair, had them drying on my aero bars as well. That was really, really good. I just then had 1 short sleeved lightweight jersey, 1 sports bra. I took 2 pairs of socks, also a luxury. I had a down jacket and a waterproof jacket, and then I took a pair of small merino shorts and a lightweight hiking shirt to wear in the evening or to wear off the bike as well.
Was there any of that you didn't use, or anything that you really wished you had that you didn't take?
Yeah, good question. I used all of that, and I didn't wish. I mean, I got, you get a bit sick of putting on the same thing every day, but it wasn't a problem at all. I had some travel wash with me, so I'd just wash my jersey, wash my shorts in the sink. When I arrived where I was staying, squeeze out the water, hang it up to dry. If it wasn't properly dry, just dry it on my aero bars the next day. And as I say, I was lucky with the weather, so it was absolutely fine.
As fortunately we are today.
No. I also took leg warmers with me, which were fantastic. So I wore those to sleep in if I was sleeping outside, and then also for any descents when it was chilly.
What type of, are they Roubaix ones, or?
The leg warmers.
What material?
What material? I don't know. They're
Lycra-y
from
things, I
from
suppose.
Assos as well. They're kind of stretchy.
The fleecy backed ones, kind of
exactly,
warm ones,
like
Roubaix material.
woolly, yeah. And they were absolutely fantastic. And I wish that I'd had arm warmers as well. I got a pretty savage tan, so I was wearing gloves, and then the bit of my arms that was exposed, I was putting sun cream on, but there are a few days where you sweat a lot, you reapply the sun cream, and I did end up a little bit sunburned. So a lightweight long sleeve jersey I think would have been good, or some lightweight arm warmers as well, just to protect from the sun.
Yeah.
Yes, that was basically it in terms of clothes. And then in terms of gear, one of my biggest frustrations is that, so I've got a tubeless setup, and I only took one spare inner tube with me. And I didn't take any tyre sealant because, doing my research, I thought, okay, tyre sealant normally lasts 6 months to a year, so I'm going away, it should be less than a month, it should be fine. And actually, by the time I got to Romania, I had a puncture that I plugged it didn't seal itself, I took the tyre off, and inside there was no sealant left at all. And then I only had one inner tube, and then I had to repair that inner tube, and it basically turned into trying to hunt down inner tubes that would fit these size wheels in a small town in Romania on a Sunday, which meant I lost a fair amount of time, and it caused a fair amount of stress. So that's something that I wouldn't skimp on in the future. I would definitely take 2 or 3 inner tubes with me, as well as a patch kit.
Good plan.
Yeah.
But interesting that the sealant had dried out or gone with whatever little punctures. I mean, it was built obviously just before you went, with new sealant and stuff in, and it was 5,000 kilometres, so a long way, but less than 5 odd weeks. Yeah,
exactly. So I think maybe it's something to do with the heat as well, and the terrain. So I did quite a lot of off-road, quite a lot of gravel, and I think there were just lots of little punctures in the tyres. So what I really should have done is stocked up on that, or got a bike shop to refill it. I heard of some riders who did that, took their bike to a bike shop halfway through the event. I know some people had new tyres. I think that's what Lael Wilcox did, so I should have been inspired by her expertise. But yeah, some extra sealant would have helped. So that was definitely a learning from that one. I had some really good tyre levers and things, so I took a multi-tool. I think something I would advise if you're doing this for the first time, that I'm so glad I did, was to take full-sized Allen keys for the things. So taking off my rear wheel, I had a full-size Allen key for that, for my adjusting my saddle, because actually trying to get the multi-tool in was super fiddly, so that really helped.
In terms of electronics, what did you use for that, and navigation, and I guess charging and batteries and all that stuff?
So I had 2 Nightcore battery packs, which were absolutely fantastic. They're kind of that size, really thin, really lightweight, kind of the size of an iPhone really, and they would do 3 full phone charges, and I had 2 of those, and I could also charge those off my Dynamo hub. So I never had any worries about running out of juice, which was really great. And because my bike, I don't have electronic shifting or anything like that, I didn't have to charge anything bike related. So the things I was charging was just my phone and I started off with a Wahoo that I borrowed. All the advice was take 2 devices with all your routes backed up, and I didn't have the money to buy a second device. I mean, as I said, quite a lot of this was kind of beg, borrow and steal from friends, and the Wahoo was great until I got sort of halfway through Italy and woke up one morning, could see my route on the Wahoo, and I couldn't see where I was. I wasn't, it wasn't updated with where I was. And I spent a whole day then trying to follow Google Maps and trying to follow road signs, which was a bit stressful because in the TCR you've got a lot of banned roads, so I was worried about going on a banned road, and also just not being efficient. I'd planned out what I wanted my route to be, what the most efficient route would be, and then I couldn't follow it. Then I ended up in Siena at a Decathlon trying to buy a replacement. Turns out Decathlon don't sell anything sophisticated in terms of devices, so then I had to wait a day until a bike shop opens. I went to Siena Bike, who were amazing, and bought a Garmin, and luckily, although I didn't have a backup device with me, I had saved all my routes onto the Garmin app as well, so it was quite easy to transfer those over. What it actually turned out was the model of Wahoo that I had, there was a sort of global systems failure with the software. and the Wahoo thought it was 2006. So it was a bit like the Millennium Bug, and it wasn't connecting to any satellites, and it took them 10 days to write the software update. So that was unfortunate, but I guess the sort of thing with events like this, these things happen. It's about keeping calm, problem solving.
It's interesting as well, like you say, the devices take two devices, but take two devices from different manufacturers. In that case, like if you'd had two Wahoos, you would still
two Wahoos. I mean, two Wahoos wouldn't have helped. I think, two different devices. If you can, I think that's good. And I think definitely some learning and some advice would be. And again, this was advice I was given before I did the event. Is learn how. I'd done all my route planning on a laptop using Ride with GPS. And actually knowing how to use the app and how to plan a route from the app on your phone, and how to do all the kind of navigational stuff using the phone, not a laptop, and then sync with the technology is really, really good, because the fact that I had all those routes on the Garmin app, that just
saved
me.
you.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I mean, just a nod on route planning there. The Lost Dock say that they can update. They updated the finished parkour while I was riding, and they also banned some roads and some bridges while I was riding. So I did have to redo some of my navigation in the Balkans as I was going, in order to sort of adhere to those rules and to those changes that were made. So actually being really familiar with the software that you're using is really important. In terms of route planning, so we've spoken about obviously the devices, the Wahoo, the Garmin, and also having the app, whatever software planning app you've got on your phone that you can refer back to if you need to. I also made sure that I saved the TCR directory of banned roads onto my phone, so that I could refer to and double check if there was any kind of diversion, or if I'd gone wrong, to make sure that I wasn't accidentally going to go on a banned road. In terms of planning my route and how I actually chopped it up, I think the thing with TCR is you've got your checkpoints, you've got your parkour that you've got to follow, and then also once we got into the Balkan, there's the ferry consideration, and then in the Balkans you've got to look at borders as well, border crossings, so what time the crossing's open, if it's on a banned road. A lot of them are on banned roads because they're on main roads, so finding the border crossings that are bike friendly and also on roads that you're allowed to use. So I essentially did my planning from border to border, from country to country. So I had originally planned all of Spain, including the checkpoint and the parkour, and then to France, to Italy, etc. And then I found that the bigger the file, the more likely it was that the device would crash, or it wouldn't render properly, or it wouldn't work. So I actually split mine. I think I had nearly 30 different files for the TCR. And it really helped to label them as well. I know it sounds silly, but TCR 01, 02, 03, so I knew exactly which file I was going to be opening and using, and then also wrote in the file name exactly where I was going from and where I was going to. And then I just split them roughly into about 200 kilometre chunks, just to basically break it down and make it a bit easier, and that was a file size that would render. A really small thing was that some of my route files ended on a roundabout or on a junction. And that was extremely frustrating, because you get to the roundabout, it's not maybe a safe place to stop, and your route file ends and you don't know where you're going. So something that I would do in future is just check.
That's really good advice.
I know it sounds so silly, but just check if you're ending up in a town, for example. That was often, I picked a town as a landmark, that you go to somewhere you then can stop and preload your next route, basically, and you're not left going around the roundabout not knowing where to go. I think another thing on navigation is, if you go, I tried to pick places, because I mostly slept inside in accommodation, so I tried to pick accommodation that was as close to my route as possible, if not on the route, to not be wasting time. And if I picked somewhere that was off my route, I would then have my phone out, and I would use my phone as an additional navigation device to navigate to where the hotel was or to where the guest house was. And then
using Google Maps.
Using Google Maps, exactly, yeah. Because what I found, the Garmin and the Wahoo both have options to navigate you back to the start of your route, and when you're tired, that's not what you want to do. I mean, I made that mistake where I said, oh yeah, navigate me back to the route, but it navigated me to the start of the route, and actually what's more helpful was just to use Google Maps to see where did I go off my route. So yeah, basically paying attention. It sounds really silly, but when you're tired, particularly if you're going into a town, I tried to avoid cities as much as possible. I tried to avoid towns as much as possible, really, particularly for accommodation, because you don't want to be navigating around a one-way system using Google Maps at the end of the day when you're tired and it's dark.
And it is another great thing to practice, isn't it? Like using the devices and sort of relating it to Google Maps and all that sort of thing in a place that you don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, again, I would say another thing I've learned is like practice with everything that you're going to use in advance. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sounds obvious now.
Away, it sounds obvious, but also I suppose the flip side to that is don't say that you're not ready for an adventure like this because you haven't practice every aspect of your sleep system, your navigation, etc. You can learn as you go. I learned a lot as I went, and it was all fine. You know, I lost time in some cases. I lost days due to, you know, navigation problems. But yes, it is fine, and you can learn on the go as well. So don't let that be the thing that stops you. The kind of the greatest joy for me on the TCR was food, eating and drinking, and discovering delightful beverages and snacks in each of the different countries. So I watched some webinars before the TCR, and they spoke about the kind of 5 pillars of ultra cycling, and one of the pillars was having a good strategy. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know what that meant. So the other ones were have a good route that you've researched, have good equipment, you know, bike that works, gear that works, having your fitness and your training, and having a positive mental attitude. I'm like, okay, I get all of those things, but the strategy I wasn't really sure about. To give you an example, it starts at 8 p.m. and I thought I'd just cycle the whole way through the night and cycle the next day because I'd practiced that a few weeks before, and I thought I can do this. And actually I crashed really, really hard by lunchtime on the second day, and I thought really I should have stopped and slept for...
Tiredness-wise rather than physical?
No. Thankfully I didn't crash at all in the whole event, but yeah, tiredness. And because I'd only slept 2 or 3 hours in the night, and really if I'd slept like 5 hours, I could have kept going till bedtime. So that's strategy. And I think strategy in terms of food, I did not carry a lot of food with me at the start. Thought, great, I'd looked at my route, I knew there were towns and villages that I'd be able to stop, I'd be able to resupply. And I actually wish that I had taken a lot more food with me at the start, so I was less reliant on finding things that were open. Because also cycling all night and then being hungry and then waiting for a bar or a cafe or supermarket to open in the morning, it was fine. Like, I found something, but it became a worry. I was lucky that I had, as I say, 3 litres of water. I actually had capacity for 3.5 if I needed it. So that first night I had more than enough water, but there were other riders who maybe only had capacity for 1.5 or 2 litres of water, and then when you're riding in the night, trying to find a fountain or trying to find a shop or a bar that was open for water was quite difficult. So I would have taken more food.
And definitely, I mean, I found in Spain the shop opening hours are just weird.
Yeah.
And sometimes difficult to find.
Yes,
some of the like smaller supermarkets, it's just the front door somewhere, and you can't find them very easily.
And I would say Google is great, and I did a lot of research on Google of, there's this thing in the opening hours, and it just couldn't be relied on. Like, particularly in Italy, everything, you get to a supermarket and then it was, closed for August, closed for the holidays. And it's actually quite devastating when you're really tired and hungry, and then you've pinned all your hopes on, I'm going to have a cold drink, I'm going to eat, and then that doesn't happen. So I I ate a lot of bananas. I probably ate three to four bananas a day on the TCR. I'd have one in each of my jersey pockets at the back. What else did I eat? Like, I had a snack pack, 2 snack packs on the front, so one with my bottle of water and then one with snacks. So buying bags of like dried fruit and nuts, things like M&Ms that weren't going to melt, and just like tip them all in and then just eat as I went. My kind of advice for stopping for food, and I got this one from Emily Chappell, is always buy double of whatever you're having. So you're stopping for pastries, you buy double and then you have those for later. I used to be vegetarian. I currently don't eat pork, but in Spain that just wasn't a thing. It was just, it's an omelette sandwich with chorizo, great, let's have it. So I was just a lot more flexible about what I was eating. I know there are riders who are plant-based and vegan and did manage to make that work, but for me, just being a lot more open and accepting that I was going to eat whatever was there was actually fine. And you just need to eat so much more than you think that you do. And it felt disgusting, the amount that I was eating, and I was eating full sharing size bags of Haribo. I drank so much coffee, I was drinking Coca-Cola, a lot of Coca-Cola, and you're still in a calorie deficit. It isn't enough. So making sure that you eat as much food as you possibly can was really, really
all
important.
All the ice creams?
All of the ice creams, yeah. I think some days I had sort of 3 or 4 ice creams. It was really, really hot. When I was in France, there were days when the Wahoo was telling me it's sort of 45, 46 degrees. So something that really helped then was kind of like energy drinks, like Gatorade I loved, and also buying bags of ice rather than water to fill my bottles with, because the water, like drinking body temperature to hot water with salts in, it's just, I mean, it does the job, but it's pretty disgusting. So having some, I think my favourite was like lemon Gatorade mixed with ice in my bottles was just amazing. And then the rest of the ice in the back of the jersey to cool you down as well. But yeah, just eat a lot, eat more than you think, eat loads of ice creams, eat sweets. And then the other thing is that, a bit like, I guess, my emergency bivvy that I didn't use that much, I also always had the ingredients for an emergency dinner. So for me that was a tin of tuna for the protein in olive oil, some kind of carb like crackers or breadsticks, so something that would last in there, a bag of salted nuts. What else did I have? And then usually something vegetable-y, so like a punnet of tomatoes or a cucumber or a bag of carrots. And then I just knew that that happened a few times, that I couldn't find anywhere for dinner, or something happened that meant I got delayed and it didn't go according to plan. I could always eat, because I think there was one night of the trip, the last night before I got to Constanza, where for a number of reasons dinner was not forthcoming and there wasn't breakfast in the morning, and I just had ended up having a packet of biscuits, and that was really not good. So making sure that you've got emergency rations is really, really important as well. I think the other thing we was going to speak about was hygiene. And so kind of the importance of keeping stuff clean and staying clean and avoiding saddle sores. I read lots of people in the reports, in the scratch reports, saying scratched due to saddle sores. And I think for me, I wasn't spending the same amount of hours in the saddle as other people. So I was maybe cycling for like 10 to 12 hours a day. A lot of people were doing it for 16, 18 hours a day. So I was lucky I was having enough time off the bike that kind of any soreness was basically dissipating in the morning. But I had a tub of Sudocrem with me, so I'd like put that on the sore bits at bedtime, wash that off in the morning, and then chamois cream to just keep me comfortable. And that was really, that kept me going. That was really good. The other thing that I didn't see anything about online, I think for women this is maybe something that's not really spoken about, but since then I've spoken to others who experienced the same thing, is my cycle went absolutely haywire. I had 2 periods during the TCR, so making sure that even if you're not expecting it, that you've got tampons or whatever products you need with you. So again, you're not in a tiny Italian village on a Sunday. It's always a Sunday morning for me trying to find a pharmacy or a supermarket that was open, because that's obviously going to hold you up. So yeah, the other thing that I would say that I wish that I'd had from a hygiene point of view is eye drops and saline solution for my eyes. So I wear glasses. I was keeping the cost down. I didn't buy any proper cycling glasses at the start of the event, which I now have because I had issues with dust in my eyes, with stuff in my eyes swelling up, eyes very sore.
You didn't wear contacts though?
No, I didn't wear contacts, and I think I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, the roads were really dusty. The winds, particularly when I got to the Balkans, the winds were really hot and really dry. It was drying my eyes out. So actually having, I bought them from a pharmacy in France, so you could do that, but saline solution to flush your eyes out with at the end of the day or during the day, and then eye drops just to deal with any irritation. Yeah, that's definitely something that I would recommend.
Not sure if anybody can hear that recording on the flight path of Heathrow. Sleeping, you did mention in there, I guess that there's different approaches of the minimalist sleep or the whatever. What was your approach around trying to get enough hours, or what you thought was comfortable?
I mean, I think again it comes down to strategy and what you're trying to get out of the event. So the big thing for me was to finish the event rather than do it in any particular time. Like, I was putting in the effort that I could each day and really doing my best, but at the same time I didn't want to kind of burn out. So I slept inside in a proper bed most nights of the event. I was getting at least 6 hours sleep a night, and I actually found I hadn't liked cycling after dark before I did this event, but I did quite a lot of cycling in the evening because it was cooler, and I would often stop for dinner and then do another sort of 3 hours before
Was that
bedtime.
into the dark, or just
into the dark? So
what lights were you using?
So I had a K-light. Yeah, you can tell this is another thing that I borrowed. I borrowed these from my partner. So I had a really good dynamo front light. Actually, that's something that I would change as well. Is something that I took out of the kit was my head torch. And then I had several nights where I was doing kind of gravel uphill, and I wasn't getting enough power I was either pushing the bike or cycling slowly, and I wasn't getting enough power to illuminate where I was going. In Albania, that actually was a bit scary because there were a few kind of sketchy bits where the road had fallen away and I wasn't seeing it very well. So I would definitely recommend either like a helmet mount that you can put a light on, or just a head torch.
Yes, you say particularly if you're walking, like hiker bikes and some of those. There's been some races with that in recently.
And the TCR require that you have 2 front lights and 2 rear lights. So I did have I had an additional front light to my dynamo light, but it didn't, because of everything that I had on the front. I had my aero bars on the front of the bike, and I had a thing on the aero bars with like a soft bag that I put clothes and stuff in, and it just meant, I've got narrow bars. It was pretty crowded on there, so the light wasn't as kind of effective in terms of positioning. So I think if it had been on my helmet or my head, that would have been absolutely fantastic. But yeah, cycling after dark was absolutely fine, and I often got up early in the morning and cycled as well. And then at lunchtime, stop and have like a bigger meal, rest out of the sun because it was so hot. And kind of the way that I dealt with finding accommodation, because I know that's something that some people have asked about on this race, is I pretty much exclusively used Booking.com, the Booking.com app. You can filter on there by if they have a 24-hour check-in, which is really helpful, because sometimes I was arriving at kind of like 11 p.m. at midnight, and so knowing that there was someone there who would let you on your bike in is really, really important. There were some places where there wasn't 24-hour check-in, so I would then, essentially the way that I did it is I'd get to 3-4 p.m. in the afternoon, and then think about how far can I get on my route till bedtime, like how many more miles do I think I can do, and also then would be looking for where strategically is there somewhere that I can stay on my route. And if I were doing this again and I was to be racing more, I think I would just, if there wasn't anywhere, or if I had to stop earlier than I wanted to, I would just bivvy. Whereas I was just going, okay, well, I think I can do another 70k today, and there's somewhere to stay in 60k, so I'll just have to stop there. And I decided to just kind of take the hit on efficiency and how many miles I would do, because I had somewhere to sleep, and that's a decision that I made. So I would just send a message on the app or call the place and explain that I was coming on my bike. I didn't know what time would arrive. Quite a few of the places that I stayed had actually heard of the TCR. There were a few places I stayed where they'd been tracking me, they'd been tracking my dots, so they knew what time I was going to arrive. And I was very fortunate that a lot of the places that I stayed, either they had, you know, facilities to cook, or they said, well, you're arriving late, would you like a sandwich? You know, we can make you some food, which was really, really good as well. But yeah, it was not a problem really. I think another thing that people have asked about is locking up the bike. So I didn't lock up my bike anywhere for the whole month. And there were some places where they said, yeah, sure, like particularly the cheaper places. When I was in Spain, I stayed in hostels on the Camino, and they said, yeah, just take your bike in the room. Other places said, no, you know, but we can keep it in the restaurant of the hotel, or we can keep it in reception, or we can keep it in an outbuilding. And the first time that happened, I felt really anxious because, you know, I come from London and I just worry about my bike, but it was absolutely fine. So I took a cafe lock, which is basically like a big zip tie, just to put through the wheel so somebody couldn't wheel the bike away when I was in the supermarket. But in terms of overnight, literally everywhere I stayed had somewhere that the bike could go that I was pretty happy was safe. There were a couple of places where there's a place in France where they, this was around the time of the forest fires, where I wanted to start early, and the lady at the hotel was like, well, we can't, you can't leave till 7 a.m. And so we had quite an argument about what time I wanted to go, how I was going to get my bike. There were a couple of places like that where they wanted to lock the bike away in a garage, and then they said, oh, well, the colleague in the morning can get it out for you, and that'll be at 7. So we came to a few negotiations. So just not take it for granted that you'll be able to leave at whatever time you want if you're staying in a hotel, and making sure.
Well, the hotel's taking your passport ever. I mean, I don't know if they still do that. They used to do that.
In Spain, it's interesting. In Spain, they wanted a photocopy of your passport everywhere you stayed. In France, they didn't care. Actually, after Spain, it didn't really seem to be an issue. But yeah, I think if you're going to stay in hotels, look for 24-hour check-in, communicate with the hotel so they know what time you're going to arrive. The places, I mean, I don't speak Romanian or anything like that, so when I was there, communicating often with WhatsApp was really helpful, because then they would just Google Translate my messages. So there were a few where I had a late arrival, and that was fine because I'd managed to WhatsApp the hotel. Obviously, if you're going to camp and things, it's not a problem. You've got a lot more freedom. But for me, that worked absolutely fine.
I think we've covered what we said we wanted to cover. I think that's. Yeah. I mean, it's such an inspiring story for me. I think to let me say that. I think it's such an inspiring story for what you've done, based on, you know, it was your first event. It was the TCR. It's the big one, and how well you did and sort of reacted to everything that was going on. I think was just amazing. So well done you.
Thank you.
And on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. So I'm doing the Lost Dot 101 in May, which is starting in Santiago and finishing in Cordoba, going via Portugal. And I'm going to be racing that this time, and doing that in a pair. So that's going to be, I think, a very different experience. But what I would just say is, it's probably clear from what you've seen from these videos that I was not very experienced, that I was not maybe as well prepared as I would like to be, and there were a lot of things that I had to learn along the way, and I'm so glad that that didn't stop me from giving it a go, because it honestly was a life-changing experience. And I think sometimes you don't learn until you're put in a position where you have to learn, and then you learn very, very quickly. And if you're thinking whether or not you might want to do something like this, I just would say, do it.
Awesome.
Do it.